You, who are without mercy, now plead for it? I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
You thought Transformers was just a show about robots turning into cars and fighting for justice, right? But what if I told you that beneath the chrome-plated action and Saturday morning thrills was a story of war, genocide, betrayal, and corporate greed? That the creators killed your favorite hero just to sell toys? That one voice actor nearly died recording a scene? And that the show was canceled because parents lost their minds? Buckle your seatbelt because you're about to see Transformers in a whole new light. This is the video that's gonna make you say you'll never look at Transformers the same way again. Let's start at the beginning, because Transformers didn't begin as a cartoon. It began as a corporate experiment. In the early 1980s, toy giant Hasbro was desperate to compete with lines like G.I. Joe and He-Man. So they struck a deal with a Japanese company called Takara, which made two toy lines, Diaclone and Microchange, little robots that transformed into cars, guns, and cassette decks. But they needed a story, so Hasbro did something brilliant. They went to Marvel Comics. That's right, Spider-Man's publisher helped create the Transformers. Editor Jim Shooter and writer Bob Budiansky crafted an entire mythology over a weekend. Autobots, Decepticons, Cybertron, Optimus Prime, Megatron. All of it came together in what was essentially a giant ad campaign with killer storytelling. And guess what? It worked. The original Transformers cartoon, launched in 1984, was way darker than we remembered. Sure, it had explosions and cheesy one-liners, but the core story, believe it or not, it's about a never-ending civil war that destroys an entire planet and forces its refugees to Earth. The Autobots aren't just good toys, they're desperate survivors. The Decepticons aren't just villains, they're power-hungry warlords willing to wipe out their own kind. Characters died and stayed dead. Whole cities were obliterated. The stakes were real. And don't even get us started on the Transformers movie. In 1986, Transformers the movie hit theaters. And what happened next? It traumatized an entire generation. Spoiler alert, within the first 20 minutes, Optimus Prime dies. Not just dies, he gets murdered, brutally, in an epic one-on-one fight with Megatron. He's mortally wounded, and the entire scene plays out like a Shakespearean tragedy.
Optimus, forgive me.
Children wept in theaters, parents were furious, and the reason? Toy sales. Hasbro wanted to clear out the old characters and make way for a new toy line. So they ordered the writers to kill off almost every original Autobot. Wow, the 80s really was ruthless. That's why Ironhide, Prowl, Ratchet, and Brawn were slaughtered in seconds. Not for drama, not for story, for product rotation. The backlash was so severe that Hasbro was forced to bring Optimus back, and they even canceled a planned death in the G.I. Joe movie because of the outrage. You weren't crazy. Your childhood pain was engineered by a marketing team. But even as the show was born to sell toys, the voice actors gave it life, and their stories are just as wild as the robots they played. Let's start with the icon, Peter Cullen, who voiced Optimus Prime. Cullen based Optimus' voice on his own brother, a Marine, who told him, "Don't be a Hollywood hero, be strong, but real, quiet strength." The result? One of the most legendary voice performers in animation history. But here's the kicker. Peter Cullen didn't even know how iconic Optimus was until fans started crying when they met him at conventions. And during the 1986 movie, he fought with the studio. He didn't want Optimus to die, but they made him do it. And that heartbreak? It's in his voice during that death scene. Frank Welker, the king of cartoon movies, played Megatron with that raspy, sinister sneer. He also voiced Soundwave, Ravage, and Rumble in the same episodes, sometimes arguing with himself in different voices. He once joked, "I needed hazard pay just for all the coughing I did voicing Soundwave." Jazz was voiced by Scatman Crothers. Yes, the legendary musician and actor from The Shining. He brought soul, coolness, and rhythm to the role, and it was one of his last performances before his death. He reportedly loved the character and asked to keep voicing him even as his health declined. Last but not least, Chris Latta, who was the chaotic genius who voiced Starscream, kind of like a maniacal snake on helium. But here's the dark side. He had a reputation for being volatile in the booth. He struggled with substance abuse and passed away at just 44. But Starscream's backstabbing, screeching glory? 100% unforgettable. You might think Transformers was all explosions, catchphrases, and Autobots roll out. But buried deep in the series are episodes so dark, twisted, and emotionally heavy, fans are still arguing about them to this day.
The Decepticons are retreating!
And chances are, your childhood self wasn't ready. Let's start with this one of the most traumatizing episodes in the entire Transformers series. Dark Awakening, Season 3, Episode 7. The episode opens with the Autobots discovering a tomb in space. Not just any tomb. This one houses the bodies of fallen Autobots, including the legendary Optimus Prime, who died during Transformers the movie, just episodes earlier. Except he's not exactly dead anymore. Optimus wakes up, but he's wrong. His voice is hollow, his movements are stiff, his face is cracked, and his spark feels off. As it turns out, he's been reanimated by the Quintessons and brainwashed into leading the Autobots on a suicide mission to destroy themselves. Yep, Optimus Prime, childhood hero and symbol of honor, literally becomes a walking corpse manipulated into betraying his own team. The visuals? Terrifying. The music? Haunting. And the emotional fallout? Totally devastating. For a show designed to sell toys, this was pure horror. Like a cartoon episode of Tales from the Crypt. You thought this was heavy? Just wait until you see The Return of Optimus Prime, a two-part finale that aired in 1987. This time, Earth is infected by a literal hate plague, a glowing red spore that causes anyone exposed to it, Autobot or human, to turn into a savage, rage-fueled maniac. Friend turns on friend, mentor attacks student, peace becomes impossible. It's a full-blown pandemic of hatred, and the only one immune is Optimus Prime. After resurrecting him yet again, the Autobots depend on him to save the galaxy, armed not with guns, but with a message of hope and unity. And remember, this aired months before the real-world HIV/AIDS panic had fully hit mainstream TV. Transformers, of all shows, was using a contagious virus as a metaphor for hatred, division, and societal collapse. Talk about being ahead of its time. And let's not forget the Japanese-only sequels like Headmasters and Super God Master Force, where the tone got even darker, more violent, and at times, wildly inappropriate. There's an entire world of Transformers media your childhood never showed you. Let's talk about something that nobody was talking about back then in the 80s. But looking back, it's impossible to ignore. Where were all the female Transformers? If you watched the original Transformers series growing up, you probably noticed that nearly every bot, Autobot, or Decepticon was male. The voices were deep, the names were aggressive, and the personalities were all testosterone-fueled.
Our mission has not changed. How do we know Cybertrons?
Well, here's the truth they don't advertise in the toy box. The original creators didn't even want female Transformers to exist. On paper, Transformers were alien robots from the planet Cybertron. They weren't born, they weren't human, and technically, they weren't supposed to have genders at all. But for some reason, every last one of them acted, talked, and fought like a dude. Why? Because in the 1980s, the toy industry was brutally gendered. Toy executives, and I'm not making this up, believed that if they included girl characters, boys wouldn't buy the toys. So they just didn't include them at all. It wasn't until the 1986 animated film Transformers the Movie that the franchise finally introduced a female Autobot, RC. She was pink, sleek, and clearly feminine. She was smart, brave, and a capable fighter, and the fans loved her. But Hasbro, not so much. They refused to release a toy of her at the time. Why? Because they thought she wouldn't sell. RC was front and center in a major motion picture and still didn't get a toy on store shelves until decades later. One of the show's writers, Flint Dill, later admitted that RC was the result of intense debates inside the writer's room. Some execs pushed back hard, even asking ridiculous questions like, if we give the robots genders, do we have to give them boobs? Yes, that's a real quote from behind the scenes. This is why even after RC's debut, female Transformers basically disappeared again. They were written out, sidelined, and forgotten for years. Later episodes and comics try to explain where female Transformers came from. One storyline said they were built by other bots. Another hinted they were created by Primus, the godlike being of Cybertron. And one episode, The Search for Alpha Trion, introduced Elita 1 and a squad of female Autobots, but they vanished right after. The truth is, the lore wasn't the problem. The problem was that no one behind the scenes actually wanted to include them, because they thought it would hurt toy sales. So let's be real. When we were kids, we saw Transformers as cool robots, awesome fights, and Saturday morning fun. But now, we see a show about the horrors of war, the cost of leadership, loyalty, betrayal, and identity, the dehumanization of technology, and how corporate greed can literally kill your heroes. There are scenes where Autobots grieve, where characters question their purpose, where enemies switch sides, and where the line between good and evil gets way too real. Optimus isn't just a hero, he's a martyr. Megatron isn't just a villain, he's a revolutionary gone rogue. And you weren't just watching a cartoon, you were watching a Greek tragedy in disguise, written to sell you plastic. Pretty deep for a cartoon out around the same time as Pee-wee's Playhouse. You might think that Transformers is just a fun action series about robots beating each other up. But buried deep in the circuits of Cybertron is a real-life battle over gender, inclusion, and outdated toy politics. It was more than meets the eye. It always was. If you grew up watching Optimus, Bumblebee, Starscream, and Megatron, drop a comment with your favorite moment. Let me know if you cried when Optimus died. And hey, if this video just cracked open your childhood memories, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives like this one, because we're not done yet. There's way more cartoon chaos to uncover, till all are one.